Hello, everybody. Hello. Well, I had to jump on here. A couple things have been brought to my attention, and you know how I love to chat about mental health. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Kimberly. I am the founder of Being Unnormal. We're coaching consulting services and a podcast. I am the podcast host and lover and purveyor of everything mental health, right? So I saw two things happen this morning when I woke up on social media. God bless social media. Hello, Lisa Marie. So I jumped on social media this morning, and there is this huge local debate going on about this, the building of an aquatic center. And I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. But what I saw, the headline was that during the mayor debates last night, it was brought up that this community center could be a prevention strategy for the teen suicide problem that we have here locally. I'm going to address that, number one. Number two, I then keep scrolling and I see this article about teen mental health and how, some schools have made it okay to take a mental health day, so to miss school for mental health, right? I'm going to address that second. First, I'm going to jump onto this community center, and I'm laughing because I'm sorry. It was absurd. Yes, best intentions, but if we think a community center is going to have any impact on mental health, I would love to see that study. So please, show me the science and data on how community centers and let's say aquatic centers have any impact to reducing a suicide rate in a town. That's all I want to say about that. I'd love to see the science. I'd love to see the data on that. Number two, children can take a mental health day from school. Children can and have always been able to take a mental health day from school. This is not new. It's called calling in sick, calling your kid out from school. My kid is sick, she's not going to school. I did it for 3 years. So this is not a new concept. Now are parents being empowered to make different decisions and call out and actually use that? They always have been. Here's why this is still a problem. Parents won't call and be honest about what's going on with their children. Why? Stigma. So this doesn't do anything to address the root cause of what's actually happening with that child's mental health. If that child had to miss school, they should have been able to miss school, and that parent should have been able to support that child taking a day off of school. Always, always, always has been the case. But we have to roll back that layer and really look at the root cause of what's happening in the home of that child. What is causing those mental health issues? What's causing the anxiety? Is school causing the anxiety? Are there too many expectations? Is this causing an anxiety disorder? And if so, does that child need supports, accommodations? A 504, maybe an IEP, right? We have to start looking at the reason why that child isn't going to school. And if it's a mental health and mental illness issue, that's different. That's just being sick. And this is where we separate why physical illnesses and mental health, mental illness get treated so differently. This is the stigma piece. When I call my kid out sick, and they say, oh, she's sick, I say, yep, anxiety. Yep, bipolar. Yep, ADHD. I'm very honest. At first, I was not, because of why? Stigma. I was afraid, and it did happen, that I would get reported. And I got this lovely letter from the superintendent saying that I was in violation of, I believe it was Megan's Law, because my kid was missing too many days in school, right? Mental health is important, and it should have the same parity as any physical illness. If you're going to keep your child home sick because they have a fever, that's perfectly fine and acceptable, and you should keep that child home. If your child is having an anxiety attack and a panic attack and is dead frightened and can't move past that state, don't shove them out the door and make them go to school. Because then our poor teachers and educators who aren't equipped and don't have the time and the resources now have to deal with this mental health issue at school, right? Instead of dealing with the home, in the home where it not belongs, but is originating from. Because there's skills that that child needs to develop. There's maybe therapy that needs to come into play. There's skills as parents we need to empower ourselves with. It is okay to let your child stay home from school if they need to because of their emotional well-being. We need to make that very, very clear because it's always been the case. You could have always called your child out sick, period. But you didn't want to get that tone of voice when you called into the school registrar and they asked you if your child was sick and you felt like you were lying when you said yes, or you felt like they were going to start to question you or accuse you or judge you. So people, take your kids out. Now, I'm not saying every day that they have a bad day or every day that they're emotionally charged, you keep them home from school. There are limits and there are boundaries. Of course. I sent my kid to school today. She didn't want to go. My kid didn't want to go to school on Monday. I kept her home. You have to develop skills. You have to be able to disseminate. You have to be able to discern when to push and pull. Because we live in a society that will make you push your child into situations that are breaking them apart. So if you want to look at the teen suicide rate and why it's the highest it's ever been, let's start looking at what's happening when they wake up in the morning and how they interact with their family unit and what they're dealing with at school. That matters. My children know, even when I push them, if they have to call me to come pick them up, I'm there. But if she's not okay and she's crying, she's having an anxiety attack, I'm not making her get on that bus. No fucking way. My child's emotional well-being comes before anything else, period. And I hope that you can feel the same. I hope whoever hears this understands that they have the right and they are empowered to be with their child if their child is not emotionally safe. End of sentence. It's not for them to get over. It's not for it to pass. It's not for them to be pushed. It's for you to listen. It's for you to be empathetic. It's for you to stay with them, not to minimize it, not to discourage it, not to placate them, not to be Pollyanna positive about it, but to be real, to be an anchor, to be supportive. That's our job. And they need us now more than ever. But we're at a time where parents are lost. They have no idea because we often say, well, when we were kids, it was so much different and I don't get it. It was so much different. We have to get it. We have to shift what we know to be true about how kids are growing, the environment they're growing up in, the expectations we're putting on them, how they interact with the family, how we interact with our children, what are our expectations, what are our preconceived notions, biases, and judgment, how the environment has shifted due to social media. There's so many things spinning. And parents are exhausted at the end of the day because they are just trying to work and make money and keep the roof, up and the table, food on the table, all that good stuff. I get it. It's hard just being human. And it's hard then being a parent. And then it's hard being a parent with a child who's struggling with a mental health issue. But what I am here to tell you is that mental health issue will not disappear unless you intervene. And that you have to intervene in a way that is different from the way you would probably approach life. Because we expect little people, little problems to be kind of fit in this box, and then we take our approaches, our standards, we throw them on them, and we expect them to adapt. And then when they start escalating, they start blowing up, they start having increased symptoms, we're sitting there going, well, I don't get it. The warning signs are there if we stop and take a look, and knowing when to hold them and when to fold them is important. So please, for the love of God, just call your kid out sick and be honest about why they're sick. That helps takes the judgment and the stigma away from mental health. It starts and begins with us as parents to say, my kid's depressed and I can't even get her to shower and I can't get her out of bed. We're going through a divorce and there's some stressors there. There's a job loss. There's some stressors there. There's a death in the family. There's some stressors there. There's mental illness. There's some stressors there. So I had to come on and say that. Trust and believe. Your kid could have always taken a mental health day. We need parents to be strong enough to call it like it is and be freaking brutally honest with ourselves about what's happening with our children. It's not because we're doing that to shame ourselves or punish ourselves. We're doing it because we care about them. And to care about them, we have to care about us. We have to do better. We have to step up and be the adult. We can't ask them to. Not anymore. It's driven them to death. And make no mistake, mental illness is deadly. Mental health is deadly. There's no coming back from suicide. And it kills more people than diabetes or cancer. And those are now our facts. We have to look at that. So on a lighter note, if you have not heard the podcast, please check us out, subscribe, share the podcast, right? This is the whole mission, to get information out about mental health, real information from therapists, clinicians, people with lived experience that have expertise and influence in those diagnoses. www.beingunnormal.com/podcast on all podcast players, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. You can find us everywhere. Please share it with somebody who needs to hear it. We have covered so many topics. I will guarantee that there's something there for everybody. But even if you don't think it has affected you, I guarantee you probably have had a coworker that may have had some of these symptoms, right? Check it out. Share it. Subscribe. Leave us a review. Tell us what topics you want to hear. We love feedback from the listeners. And be bold. Be brave. Destigmatize mental health. The way that we do that is by empowering people with the truth. Education. Have a great day, everybody. Oh, and also, don't forget to donate to Project Holiday Hope. Let's help the kids and families that are in psychiatric crisis. Bye, everyone.